Hi, hello. It's been a bit. I'm sure I'm not alone in the last few months and going into the oncoming months. Chaos has erupted in my schedule, so I haven't been able to read much. But today I wanted to make sure that I got some sort of update out, so I'm going to update y'all on my September and October reads, the few of them that they are, kind of what I'm reading right now, and my general plans of what I want to get through by the end of the year. So while I don't know how much I'm going to be able to actually read through the rest of this year, I am planning on doing a kind of fun bookmas series. So in the days leading up to Christmas, I'm going to upload videos that are kind of wrapping up my 2021 reading year. I will put out like a proper kind of announcement video going over like what exactly the videos will be. So I hope that y'all will kind of stick with me for that, and I hope that you enjoy them when they do come out. That being said, let me get to the books that I read in the last couple months, because there's only a couple of them. Okay, so I think back in August, I started with the first book in the Warrior series in my reread of my childhood favorite series, and in what month is it? In September, I picked up the next two. So I picked up number 2 in this series, yes, Fire and Ice, and I picked up number 3, Forest of Secrets. So since these are the sequels, I won't go too much into what they're about, but the series as a whole is about a house cat named Rusty. He ends up meeting these wild cats in the forest outside of his home and ends up joining their clan. And these are these clans of wild cats. There's Thunder Clan, River Clan, Wind Clan, and Shadow Clan. You can maybe take a guess at which clan is like the evil clan. This was like my favorite series. It's written by Erin Hunter, which is a pen name for a group of like, I think 5 or 6 women. When I was young and first picking these up, I think only the first like 6 books in the initial like arc of the series were out, and they were kind of just picking up the second one. And at the time, I just kind of grew out of it and moved on, but now I'm back to reading them, and the nostalgia is hitting hard, and I'm super enjoying it. They've got a lot of action and as much probably political intrigue as you can get in a middle grade series about wild cats. There are 30 total like general books in the Warrior series, as well as comics and standalones and everything, so it will take me a bit to get through the whole series, but I am hoping to finish at least the first one next year, but we shall see. So the next and last book that I read in September is The Beauty in Breaking. This is by Michelle Harper. This is a memoir. It's about her own life. Obviously, she is a emergency room physician, and it talks about just kind of some cases and patients that have stuck with her. But the stories were beautiful, and it was really nice to see her kind of growing as a person through her life and how her patients kind of connected with her. It was also interesting to see kind of the difference, because she did work at both kind of a hospital that's set in a more wealthy area, better funded, primarily white clientele, and then she also worked at hospitals that were less funded. They were in lower income areas with higher crime rates. The way that you deal with the patients is a little bit different, and your relationship with them is a little bit different. And then just some of the life lessons. Like, I don't really want to give away any of the stories, but there was one about a man who was kind of, his cancer relapsed, and it was kind of him and his family making the decision on whether he wanted to pursue treatment or just kind of live out the rest of his life and enjoy it while it lasted. But I did really enjoy this. I think if she ever releases like even more of a memoir, like just more stories of her time in the ER, or if she maybe decides she wants to write fiction or something, just I would love to hear more about her experience and the patients that she's dealt with. And I will say just a quick, obviously there's going to be talk of medical things. You don't go to the ER for nothing. So obviously some violence and things, but I will say specifically trigger warnings for drug use and child death. All right, the only read I got to in October was Tinder is the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. This was really good until like literally like the last half of the last chapter. It like ruined it. So this is basically a dystopian story where it's set in the world where a virus has infected animals and people can no longer eat animal meat. So to fix that problem and to kind of help with overpopulation, the government has decided that we're going to eat special meat, which is human meat. So we're now farming and slaughtering and processing humans that have been raised specifically for this. So they're basically raised like cattle or sheep or pigs. We specifically follow Marcus, who prior to all of this going down, he and his father did run a processing plant just to process normal animals through slaughter and meat packaging and all that. And with the transition, that kind of went away, and now the processing plant is taking care of humans, and Marcos is in charge of kind of buying and selling the head, as they call the humans, because no one calls them humans anymore. That would be a little icky for them. Marcos is not handling it well, but he needs the money to take care of, obviously, himself and his father, who kind of mentally lost it after the transition. He just couldn't handle it anymore. Marcos's wife has kind of gone semi-left him after the death of their son. And it's just a really rough, yucky ride, but yucky in like the best way possible. I will say gore wasn't too bad, like the descriptions of things. The only part that made me like uncomfortable to read is there is a scene where some puppies are abused. So if you are sensitive to that, I would either go in just very ready for it. It is fairly descriptive, and I'm not normally super bothered by things, but it did kind of turn my stomach a little bit. But otherwise, it's more or less what you would expect going into a book with this plot. And the writing style was really interesting, and it took a little bit to get into, but it's hard to describe, but it's a very unique way of writing, and I ended up really loving it. My only real issue was the end. I won't spoil anything. The end felt like it came out of nowhere for me. Like, I felt everything was going this direction, and Marcus's feelings and everything we were being told about how Marcus was feeling and thinking was going this direction, and then it just felt like all of a sudden at the end he went this direction, and maybe I just missed something, but it just felt like it came out of nowhere for me. And it didn't feel like, ooh, a twist. It just felt like a jarring change of direction. Yeah, that was really the only thing. Otherwise, it would have been like one of my favorite reads of the year if it wasn't for that ending. But overall, I did really enjoy it. And I do, if you want something spooky and you can kind of handle those gruesome scenes, I definitely recommend it. All right, as for what I'm reading now, I am in the middle of Ring Shout by P. DeJelly Clark. I'm like a third of the way in, almost halfway. This follows a group of female bootleggers who are all women of color during the time of the Ku Klux Klan, or the first time. I think they had a resurgence in the 60s during the Civil Rights Movement. And they also, on top of bootlegging, work as monster hunters, because there are basically, the Klan is the actual like men and women that are part of this terrorist group, and then the Ku Kluxes are like demons. Maurice has that's the main character. She has like a magic sword, and we're kind of finding her backstory and watching them fight these monsters and learn more about them. So yeah, I'm only halfway through this, and it's only a short little novella, so I don't want to say too much. So while I can't say I recommend it yet because I haven't finished it, I am thus far enjoying it. And then as for the rest of the year, what I want to try and get through, I have a couple comics. I know the last comic for Starfighter came out that wraps up the series. So that is on its way, as well as Hamlet Machine's other like short series. So I'm gonna whip through those. And then in my library, I got Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Kaw. This is essentially a group of friends go to Japan for a wedding, and it's kind of a spooky haunted house stories based around Japanese lore. It's very short, so I don't want to say too much, and obviously I haven't read it, but this was one of my most anticipated releases for this year. I'm very excited, and I want to get to this as soon as possible. And the other book from my library is The Plot by Jean Korelitz. I'm probably butchering that. I originally heard about this, I think, on Kayla from Book and Lala's channel. And it's basically an author whose career is like sliding down the tubes and he's not doing well, but he has an old student who I guess comes to him saying like he's got like the next best story. And the author doesn't really believe him until he hears the plot and he's like, hot damn, that's a good story. And then his student dies and he steals the plot. And I guess weird things start happening. And I just kind of like stopped reading. I think Kayla also kind of stopped because we're both kind of, we don't want to go too far in if it's like a thriller suspense thing. So that's all I know. It sounded interesting. I'm hoping to get to this before I need to return it, which I'm going to have to get on it. But yes, that is the last one I'm hoping to get to this year. All right, I hate to love you and leave you, but that is all I have for you today. I have to get on filming those Bookmas videos, planning out more content. I'm hoping to actually plan out next year so I have the proper time and everything to make sure I've got all the content ready for you. And I'm very excited. I hope to see you around. Let me know what you read. Let me know if you read any of these and what your thoughts are. Let me know if you're going to read any of these, and like, subscribe if you would like to, and I will see you next time. Bye!